All right, good morning, class. Good morning, class. It is Friday, July 10th. Today we are going to look at things a little differently. Instead of just having a PowerPoint watching you go through it, we're going to actually take a look at one of the common core skills you need to know for your tape test and actually go through IXL and try to answer some of these questions, walk through them, and help you through it. It's actually um, one of my favorite things to teach is just social studies and history. So today we're going to look at this Common Core Scale 6.8R.RH.3, which means nothing to you, but if you want to Google this skill, you can find good practice activities. But this skill that you need to know for your tape test is identifying key steps in a text description of a process related to history, science, social studies. For example, how a bill becomes a law, how interest rates are raised or lowered, etc. So, what we're going to do, we're going to take a look at IXL. And I'm already in it, so let me get out. Alright, a couple things before we start. I will post all these skills under Learning, Recommendations. Skills suggested by your teacher. Alright, there's 88 right now. Excuse me, I'll have a sip of coffee. There's 88 skills right now. It'll be up to over 90 after I post these. But if you want to go in a different way and practice the skills that I haven't suggested, you go to Skill Plans and TABE Reading. So this is all the skill plans for your tape test. So there's no reason not to practice IXL because it's all laid out here for you. The more IXL you practice, more likely you're going to pass this test. But for all intents and purposes, everyone's on the M level or the D level for our classes. This one is going to be a D level skill. If you're on the M test, don't worry about it. This is a skill you still need to know. We're just going to, for this class, go to for this skill. Alright, so here we scroll down a little bit and here it is, our skill that we're going to talk. And these are all Common Core skills. They're across the board. Every state has Common Core. So these are the skills you need to know. So I'm going to click on this and we're going to go to the legislative branch and we're going to start answering some of these questions. Look through these. Alright, so let's go ahead and begin. Alright, so the first question says the legislative branch described in Article 1 of the United States Constitution. Read Section 1 of Article 1. Answer the question. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in the Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. Alright, they give you a definition of legislative, vested in, and consists if you don't know. According to the passage, which statements are true? Select all that apply. Alright, let's go one by one. The Senate is part of Congress. All legislative powers shall be vested in Congress of the United States, which shall be made up of a Senate and a House of Representatives. So if it's made up of a Senate and House, we know that the Senate is part of Congress. Yes, that is correct. The Congress makes laws. All legislative power, what does legislative mean? Lawmaking, shall be given to Congress. So use those context clues. You might not know the words, but think through them and you get your answer. So yes, this is correct. House of Representatives is part of Congress. Just like it shall consist of a Senate, it should also consist of Congress. Congress does not have legislative power. We can't say that it makes laws, has lawmaking power, and then does not have it. So these three are your answers. Excellent. All right, here's a little history lesson about where legislature comes from. Go ahead and read through it. Kind of interesting, but for time, we're just going to keep moving. All right. Look at the table of Latin words and prefixes, then complete the text below. All right, in Latin, uni, bi, and tri, and cameral mean 1, 2, 3, and chamber. Okay, so it gives you the definition. It gives you your answer right here. So if the United States Congress is a legislature made up of 2 chambers, it is known as a what? So we know 2 means bi. So right there we can find our answer. Camera means chamber or cameral. So bi-2 chamber. 2 chambers, bicameral. Alright, little history lesson about the Capitol building. Alright, here's a good one. The two houses of Congress are the representatives and the Senate. The map below shows the number of representatives and number of senators for each state. Let's look at the question. The number of representatives for a state is always the same. Alright, number of representatives. Each state has different numbers. So is it always the same? No, it's not. What does it depend on? Population, or does it depend on land area? So we got to look at the key. States with population above 500,000. It doesn't say anything about land area. Even if you don't know how representatives are elected to Congress, you know based on the information population. It's not land area. It depends on population. Alright, so the number is 600,000. When there's 600,000 people, is one representative. So we know that states like Delaware, which might have one representative, or North Dakota or Montana, have a lot less people living in them than, say, California, Florida, Texas, Pennsylvania, New York, some of the biggest states, Illinois. All right. So let's look at the next question. The number of senators for each state depend on its land area. Doesn't say anything about land area, right? It's population. Is it going to be always the same? Yes. The number of senators, regardless of number of people or size of the land area, always the same. Always going to be 2. So you got a small state like Connecticut has 2. A big state like Texas has 2. Doesn't matter. It's always going to be the same. Okay, where these rules come from? A little history lesson for all y'all. Alright. This one we are going to bypass, but this is just asking you to put them in order. This one is a little tricky. So we're just going to bypass this. Alright, because that one's incorrect. And I have a problem with that question, so don't worry about that. Alright, let's look at the next one. Though the Constitution does not mention them, political parties are important for determining leadership and power in Congress. The United States is a two-party system. What are 2 main political parties in the United States today? Alright, so it's asking you, what are the 2 political parties? Something everybody should know, because most of y'all are 18, and most of y'all need to vote. That's a right as U.S. citizens. If we want to enact change in our country, we need to vote. The 2 political parties, Libertarian, Democrat, Republican, Stars and Stripes. We should all know that the 2 political parties are Democrats and Republicans. The donkey and the elephant. Okay? Democratic Party is more liberal. Republican Party is more conservative. Okay. Alright. These diagrams show the party breakdown of the House of Representatives and the Senate in 2016. Each dot represents 1 member of Congress. Look at the 2 diagrams and answer the question. Alright, so we just determined Democrats and Republicans are the 2 parties. So, Democrats are blue, Republican is red. Blue, red. Assuming each member of Congress votes the same way as the rest of his or her party, which party will have the advantage when trying to pass bills? Alright, so if we look at this U shape, if we're splitting it right down the middle, let's just say right down the middle, it's right about here and right about here, okay? Which has more? I mean, we could count every single one, right? But look at it this way. In the House of Representatives, there's more what? Republicans or Democrats? More Republicans. Now let's look at right down the middle here in the Senate. Okay? Assuming each party votes the same way as the rest of her party, which party will have the advantage? Alright, so this gets a little tricky. Now, I don't know how they're interpreting this, but this is how we're going to interpret it. Is there more Democrats than Republicans? Yes. And no. It's a tricky one. There's more Democrat. If we put this blue over here, there's going to be more Republicans than Democrats. But there's 2 independents. Which way do these 2 independents tend to vote? It's hard to say, but they vote with the Democrats. So there's one more Democrat, or there's one less Democrat. There's more Republicans. There's more red than blue. More red than blue. The answer is going to be Republican. Okay? All right. Whew, this one looks tricky. This will be our last question we go through. All right. Each House of Congress has important leaders, many of whom are determined by which party is in the majority. Look at the chart explaining the functions of some of these leaders, then answer the question below. All right. I would not read this whole chart for time purposes on your tape test. I would go right to the question. Okay, this is where we would use skimming and scanning like we talked about. All right, based on the information chart, match the function with the individual most likely to perform that function. All right, the function takes a tally of potential votes for and against bills. All right, this is where we're going to have to scan, right? Look for tally for votes, Selects committees. This is where we read fast. Decides which committee will review. Spokesman. Schedules. Keeps legislative agenda. Assistant. Counts potential votes. Alright. Heads the Senate. Head breaks the ties in the votes. Spokesman for the party. Schedules bills. Keeps legislative agenda. Alright. So, Speaker of the House. Majority Leader. Majority Whip. President of the Senate. Alright, so let's just go one by one. Takes a tally of potential votes. Let's skip that one. Breaks a tie, vote on a bill in the Senate. Alright, so we go to Senate. Here it is. President of the Senate breaks a tie vote in the Senate. Here's our answer. We got to go to, what was this? The President of the Senate. Alright, so say we're stuck on one, like that one is a little tricky. Let's come back to it. Let's try to get the other 3, and the last one will decide itself out. Keep the legislative agenda for the majority party in the Senate. All right, Senate, majority party. Keeps legislative. So we're in the Senate. Keeps legislative agenda for the party, the majority leader. So the majority leader in the Senate. Decide which committee will review a bill in the House. So it's one of the 2, right? Decides which committee will review a bill in the House. So Speaker of the House decides which committee will review each bill. We're skimming. We're just finding those keywords. Committee. Review each bill. Speaker of the House. So this one we might have been a little stuck on because it doesn't specifically say it in here, but we know those other 3 are right, so this one has to be right. Bam! All right, Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House. That means the Democrats are in charge of the House, so she's in charge. All right. So this is what you need to do. I've given you the first 5 answers. We've gone through these. I want you to work through these questions. You don't have to know the answer, but all of your answers are in here. This is where you need to use your skills like skimming and scanning for keywords, finding just those pieces of information, looking for specific things. For example, you get to this one, you got a whole lot of information. You're not going to read the whole thing and remember it. You're going to go to the question. Trying to charge which statement is true. A bill is always started in the House. Look for a bill started in the House. And a Senate introduces a bill. Member House introduces a bill. So no, it's not. It can be anywhere. That's not true. Alright, so that's just how you need to logically think. And that's what the tape test is about, just logically trying to find these answers and get through them. Alright, so we're almost out of time here. Go to this skill, practice it. I'm gonna put some lessons on here this week. But for today, your goal is to just go through this PowerPoint and kind of understand and work through some of these questions. Remember, recommendations, skills by your teacher. Hope everyone has a great day. Please let me know if you need anything. I will be here as always to assist.